Lieutenant Vex stood at the edge of the training field, his purple skin glistening under the twin suns of Academy Prime. 23 cycles he had been doing this job. 23 cycles of watching fresh recruits fumble with basic combat equipment, freeze under pressure, and occasionally set themselves on fire with their own weapons. He had seen it all, or so he thought. Today's batch looked promising enough. A Thorian with exceptional height, 2 Kelthans whose exoskeletons gleamed with youth, and 1 human. The human was the interesting addition. First of her species to ever attend the Galactic Defense Academy. Her name was Kira, and she stood there looking bored, hands shoved into her pockets, dark hair pulled back in a simple tie. "All right, listen up." Vex's voice carried across the field, amplified by the translation collar around his thick neck. Grenade training. This is where we separate the survivors from the statistics. You see this? He held up a blue metallic sphere about the size of a Kelbin fruit. Training grenade. Non-lethal, but it will hurt like your worst nightmare if you let it detonate near you. The purpose of this exercise is simple. I throw, you evade, you learn not to die. Questions? The Thorian raised one massive hand. "Sir, what is the velocity of the throw?" "Fast enough to make you regret standing still," Vex replied with a grin that showed too many teeth. "Anyone else? No? Good. Let us begin." He pointed at the first Kelthan. "You. Ready position." The recruit scrambled into a defensive stance, mandibles clicking nervously. Vex wound up, calculated the trajectory with the precision of someone who had done this thousands of times, and threw. The grenade sailed through the air in a perfect arc. The Kelthan dove left, hit the ground, rolled twice, and covered his head. The grenade landed 3 meters away and emitted a soft beep. "Adequate," Vex announced. "You lived. Barely. Next." One by one, the recruits took their turns. Dive, roll, run, cover. Standard responses. Predictable. Boring. Vex suppressed a yawn as the Thorian lumbered through his evasion, moving with all the grace of a cargo hauler. Then came Kira's turn. She stepped forward, still looking monumentally unimpressed with the entire proceedings. No defensive stance. No tension in her shoulders. She just stood there, weight on one leg, like she was waiting for public transport. "Human?" Vex said, his tone sharpening. "This is not a casual observation exercise. When I throw this grenade, it will be moving at approximately 140 kilometers per hour. Do you understand?" "Yep," she said, popping the P sound in a way that made his translator hiccup. "Then assume a ready position." She shifted her weight to both feet. That was it. That was her entire preparation. Vex felt his first heart flutter with irritation. Overconfident rookie. Fine. Let her learn the hard way. He gripped the grenade, wound up with perhaps a bit more force than strictly necessary, and released. The sphere cut through the air with a whistle, spinning perfectly, heading directly for the human center mass. What happened next would haunt Vex for the rest of his military career. Kira's right leg snapped up faster than his eyes could track. There was a sharp crack of boot against metal. The grenade, which had been traveling toward her at lethal velocity, suddenly reversed direction. It spun through the air, tumbling now instead of sailing, and landed with a soft thud directly at Vex's feet. Beep. The training field went silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Vex looked down at the grenade, then up at the human, then back down at the grenade. "Did you—" he started, his voice coming out strangled. "Did you just kick my throw?" Kira shrugged. It was coming at my stomach. Seemed rude. "Rude?" Vex's voice climbed an octave. "You kicked a grenade mid-flight. That is impossible. The reaction time alone would require neural processing speeds that do not exist in carbon-based life forms. I mean, Kira said, examining her fingernails with apparent fascination. It was not moving that fast, honestly. I have had younger siblings throw harder balls at family gatherings. Before Vex could formulate a response that did not involve screaming, a heavy hand landed on his shoulder. Commander Thole had appeared beside him, seemingly out of nowhere, which was impressive given that the Vexian male weighed approximately 300 kilograms. "Lieutenant?" Thole rumbled, his voice like stones grinding together. "Replay the footage. Now." Vex's hands shook as he pulled up his wrist display and connected to the training field sensor array. The holographic projection flickered to life between them, showing the last 30 seconds from multiple angles. They watched in real time as Vex threw the grenade. Then Thole grunted, "Slow it down, frame by frame." Vex complied, his stomach's churning. The footage crawled forward. The grenade left his hand. Frame 1, frame 2, frame 3 spinning through the air. Frame 15. Kira's eyes tracked the projectile. Frame 16, her weight shifted. Frame 17, her leg was already in motion. Frame 18, contact. The grenade compressed slightly against her boot, the impact visible in the metal's deformation. Frame 19, it was already traveling back toward them. Total time from throw to reversal, 0.4 seconds. "By the void," Thole whispered. "Run a simulation, calculate the force required to reverse that trajectory." Vex input the commands, though his hands felt numb. The computer processed, calculated, recalculated, and then displayed a number that made both officers stare in disbelief. "That cannot be correct," Vex said flatly. "That level of kinetic force would shatter the leg bones of every species in the Academy. Every single one. Yet, she is standing there looking bored," Thole observed. "Not even breathing hard." They both turned to look at Kira, who had now sat down on the ground and was retying her boot, completely oblivious to the existential crisis she had just triggered in two decorated military officers. "Commander," Vex said slowly, "what exactly did we recruit?" Thole's expression was unreadable, which for a Vrexian meant something between deep concern and the early stages of panic. "I do not know, Lieutenant. But you are going to find out. As of this moment, your only assignment is that human. I want reports. I want data. I want to know if this is a fluke or if Earth just sent us a casual apocalypse in a 5'6" frame." "Sir, surely there are better qualified personnel for xenobiological assessment. I am a combat trainer, not a scientist." "You are the one she made look foolish," Thole said with a grin that was definitely malicious. "Consider it character building. Dismissed." As Thole walked away, Vex looked back at the training field. The other recruits were whispering among themselves, casting nervous glances at Kira, who had finished with her boot and was now lying flat on her back, apparently cloud watching. Vex walked over and stood above her, blocking her view of the sky. "Human Kira," he said formally. "Just Kira is fine," she replied without opening her eyes. "Kira, then. That kick. How did you do it?" "Do what?" "The grenade. You intercepted it mid-flight and returned it with enough force to reverse its momentum completely." She opened one eye and squinted up at him. "Oh, that. Yeah, sorry if that was against the rules or whatever. Instinct, you know? Something flies at you. You either catch it or kick it away. Basic playground survival." "Playground," Vex repeated numbly. "Survival. Sure. Dodgeball, kickball, soccer, that sort of thing. Pretty standard Earth stuff." Vex felt his third heart, the one reserved for extreme stress situations, begin to beat for the first time in a decade. What in the name of the eternal void was Earth? And why did their children train in combat reflexes disguised as recreation? He had a horrible feeling he was about to find out. 3 days later, Vex found himself in Laboratory 7, surrounded by enough monitoring equipment to diagnose a small moon. All of it pointed at one unimpressed human female. "This is excessive," Kira said, looking at the sensor arrays with mild annoyance. "This is protocol," Vex lied smoothly. There was no protocol for this. He was making it up as he went, which terrified him more than he cared to admit. Dr. Fela emerged from behind a bank of computers, her 6 arms carrying various scanning devices. The Palaxian scientist had been thrilled when Vex requested her assistance, right up until she saw the preliminary footage. Then she had gone very quiet and started muttering equations under her breath. "All right, Kira," Fela said, her voice artificially cheerful. "We are going to run some simple tests. Reflex assessments, reaction time measurements, spatial awareness protocols. Nothing invasive, I promise." "Can we make this quick?" Kira asked. "I have xenobiology homework due tomorrow, and I have not even started reading about Keltharian respiratory systems." Vex and Fela exchanged glances. The human was worried about homework. Homework, while they were trying to figure out if she represented a fundamental recalculation of what was physically possible. "We will be as efficient as possible," Fela assured her. "First test. Stand in the center circle. Foam projectiles will be launched from random directions at random intervals. Simply avoid them, however feels natural." Kira stepped into the marked zone, rolling her shoulders like this was a mild inconvenience. Fela activated the system. The first foam ball launched from behind, moving at 40 kilometers per hour. Kira sidestepped without turning around. The second came from the left, faster. She ducked. Third, fourth, fifth, from above, below, 3 at once. She weaved through them like water flowing around stones, her movements minimal, efficient, almost lazy. Fela increased the speed. 60 kilometers per hour, 80, 100. Kira yawned and adjusted her ponytail while dodging 12 simultaneous projectiles. "Okay, stopping," Fela announced, her voice shaking slightly. She turned to Vex, her orange eyes wide. "Lieutenant, her reaction time is 0.08 seconds, consistently. The fastest recorded reflex in any galactic species is 0.23 seconds, held by a Vraxian assault champion. She is 3 times faster, and she is not even trying." "Define not trying," Vex said weakly. "Her heart rate is 62 beats per minute. She is literally more relaxed than when she walked in here." Kira wandered over, hands in pockets again. "Are we done? Because that was kind of fun, actually. Reminded me of this game we used to play in gym class where everyone throws balls at each other until only one person is left standing." Vex stared at her. "You played combat elimination games in educational facilities? For fun?" "I mean, yeah. Dodgeball is pretty universal where I am from. Good times. Though Tommy Briggs always threw way harder than necessary. Kid had an arm like a cannon." "Tommy Briggs," Vex repeated slowly. "A human child, threw projectiles at you, for entertainment." "Well, yeah, that is the game." Fela made a strangled sound and turned back to her computers. "I need to run cognitive processing tests. Kira, please sit here and put on this neural scanner." The next hour revealed results that made even less sense. Kira's brain processed visual information 40% faster than galactic average. Her spatial reasoning scores were off the charts. Her predictive modeling, the ability to calculate where objects would be rather than where they were, exceeded military-grade targeting computers. How? Vex finally asked, setting down the datapad because his hands were shaking. How is this possible? What are you? Kira looked genuinely confused. I am just a person? Like a pretty average person, honestly. I was not even good at sports back home. I ran track, sure, but I never placed higher than 4th in regional competitions. 4th? Vex said faintly. In your entire region? Yeah, there were way faster girls. Emily absolutely smoked everyone at state finals. And do not even get me started on professional athletes. Those people are on another level entirely. Fela dropped a datapad. It clattered loudly in the sudden silence. There are faster humans, she whispered. More capable humans? Well, obviously. I am just okay at physical stuff. Why? Vex sat down heavily, his legs suddenly unable to support his weight. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice was screaming that the galaxy had made a terrible, terrible mistake in assumptions about humanity. And that voice was probably right. The amphitheater was packed with more brass than Vex had seen in his entire career. 40 species, each represented by their highest military officials, all crammed into Academy Prime's main exhibition hall. The air hummed with translation devices, working overtime, creating a cacophony of overlapping languages that made Vex's head ache. Commander Thal stood beside him, looking unusually tense. The council wants proof, he muttered. They think the footage was doctored. Half of them believe humans are a hoax entirely. I wish they were right, Vex replied quietly. Down in the center arena, Kira stretched her arms overhead, completely unbothered by the hundreds of eyes watching her every move. She wore standard Academy combat gear, looking tiny against the massive space designed for Thorian war games. The head counselor, an ancient Palaxian named Vorn, raised one withered hand. We will now observe the human-designated Kira perform standard combat assessments. Lieutenant Vex, you may begin the protocols. Vex activated his wrist display, his heart's pounding. Protocol 1, projectile evasion, initiating. 30 automated turrets descended from the ceiling, each one targeting Kira with softened training rounds. The system activated with a hum. Projectiles began firing from every angle, creating a deadly web of trajectories that would overwhelm even experienced soldiers. Kira moved. There was no other word for it. She flowed through the barrage like smoke, her body twisting and bending in ways that seemed to violate basic anatomy. A round came at her face. She tilted her head. 3 more at her torso. She spun between them. 5 simultaneous shots from behind. She dropped into a slide that carried her under all of them while simultaneously kicking off the ground to change direction. The amphitheater had gone completely silent. Increase speed by 50%, Counselor Vorn commanded. Vex complied, though his hand trembled on the controls. The turrets doubled their fire rate. Kira adjusted instantly, her movements becoming faster, but no less fluid. She was humming something, Vex realized with disbelief. Humming a tune while dodging what amounted to simulated execution by firing squad. Protocol 2, Vex announced, his voice barely steady. Close quarters combat. Release the Vraxians. 3 panels opened in the arena walls. Out stepped the pride of Vraxian military, their combat specialists. Each one was 2.5 meters of pure muscle, trained from birth in 17 martial disciplines, with reaction times that made other species look sluggish. They had never lost an exhibition match. Never. They circled Kira like predators, moving with the coordinated precision of a hive mind. Then they attacked. The first Vraxian came in high, claws extended. Kira stepped inside his reach, grabbed his arm, and used his own momentum to flip him completely over her shoulder. He hit the ground hard enough to crack the reinforced flooring. The second attacked from behind while she was occupied. She sensed him somehow, dropped flat, and his strike passed through empty air where her head had been. She swept his legs without even looking at him. The third Vraxian, the smartest of the group, had been waiting for an opening. He found none. Kira rose from her leg's sweep and moved toward him instead of away, which violated every combat doctrine in the known galaxy. You do not advance on a Vraxian warrior. You survive them and hope for backup. She ducked under his guard, tapped 3 pressure points on his torso so fast her hands blurred, and stepped back. The Vraxian stood frozen for 2 heartbeats, then collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. Total elapsed time, 7.3 seconds. The amphitheater erupted into chaos. Officials were shouting in 40 different languages, demanding explanations, calling for reviews, some calling for humanity to be immediately recruited, others demanding Earth be quarantined as a dangerous world producing dangerous creatures. Vex just stood there, watching Kira help the Vraxians to their feet, while apologizing profusely for embarrassing them in front of an audience. The galaxy was not ready for this. Not even close. The debriefing room was mercifully empty. After 6 hours of council screaming matches, accusations of fraud, and 3 separate motions to classify humanity as a threat-level species, Vex had managed to extract Kira from the chaos and bring her somewhere quiet. She sat across from him now, drinking something brown and steaming from a disposable cup. Coffee, she had called it, another Earth thing that apparently kept humans functional. "So," she said finally, breaking the silence. That got weird. Vex laughed, a sound that came out more like a strangled cough. Weird? Yes. That is certainly one word for it. Apocalyptic might be another. Civilization altering, perhaps. "I just did what you asked," Kira said defensively. "It is not my fault everyone freaked out. You defeated 3 Vraxian combat specialists in 7 seconds, Kira. 7 seconds. Do you understand what that means? Vraxians are considered the deadliest close-quarters fighters in known space. Entire wars have been won because one side had Vraxian mercenaries, and you made them look like novices." She shrugged, sipping her coffee. They telegraphed their moves pretty obviously. Big wind-ups, lots of committed momentum. Easy to redirect once you see the pattern. Vex rubbed his face with both hands, feeling every one of his cycles pressing down on him. "This is what I do not understand. This cannot be normal for your species. It cannot be. You must be exceptional, yes? A genetic anomaly? Military family background? Enhanced somehow?" "I am literally the most average person I know," Kira said flatly. "Back home, I was decent at sports, but nothing special. I did okay in gym class. I ran track and placed in the middle of the pack most of the time. I took exactly 2 years of taekwondo when I was 12 and quit because I got bored. That is the extent of my combat training." 2 years of... When you were 12? Vex repeated slowly. 12 Earth years. That would make you what? Barely past adolescence? I mean, yeah. I quit when I was 14. That was 6 years ago. Vex stood up abruptly and began pacing. His legs needed to move or his brain would short-circuit entirely. "Walk me through this. Explain to me how an average human develops reflexes that break every known biological law." Kira leaned back in her chair, considering. "Okay, so, kids on Earth play a lot of games. Physical games. Tag, where you chase each other and try not to get caught. Dodgeball, where people throw balls at you and you have to avoid them or catch them midair. Soccer, football, basketball, hockey, all games where you are tracking fast-moving objects while people actively try to stop you. We play these from like age 5 or 6. Basically as soon as we can run without falling over constantly. You train children in combat reflexes, Vex said faintly. You disguise military conditioning as recreational activities for juveniles. It is not military training. It is just fun. Kids like running around and competing. It is normal. Nothing about this is normal. Vex's voice rose despite his best efforts. You are describing systematic reflex enhancement starting in early childhood, continued through adolescence, normalized across your entire population. Do you understand what that means from an evolutionary standpoint? Kira frowned. Not really. I mean, I took basic biology, but I was never great at the theory stuff. Vex stopped pacing and faced her directly. Every species in the Galactic Council evolved in relatively stable environments. Predators, yes, but manageable ones. Challenges, certainly, but survivable with basic intelligence and tool use. Our reflexes developed to handle occasional threats. Yours developed to handle constant ones. Earth is not that dangerous, Kira protested. Your planet has megafauna that can crush you, venom that can kill you in minutes, weather systems that devastate entire regions, seismic activity that destroys cities, and according to the files I read, you share ecosystems with creatures that hunt you for food. Still, in your current era, with your technology. I mean, shark attacks are pretty rare, actually. The fact that you have a statistical category for that tells me everything I need to know. Vex sat back down, feeling exhausted. Kira, here is what I think happened. Humanity evolved on a death world. Not the worst one, perhaps, but bad enough that every generation had to be faster, more reactive, more aware than the last, or they died. You developed persistence hunting, yes? You chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion? Some ancient humans did that, yeah. Because you have endurance that exceeds almost every other land-based predator on your planet. You also developed throwing accuracy that allowed you to kill at range. Your brain processes motion tracking better than species that evolved specifically for it. And then, as if that was not enough, you turned all of these survival traits into games. Entertainment. You practice combat skills from childhood and call it physical education. Kira was quiet for a moment, processing. When you put it that way, it does sound kind of intense. Kind of intense. Vex echoed, his laugh bitter. The Galactic Council just watched you do things that should be impossible, and your response is that you are average, and it was kind of fun. Do you know what the other recruits are saying? They are terrified of you. The Thorian requested a transfer. Both Kelthans filed reports asking to be placed in a different training unit. You have created an incident that is going to reshape military doctrine across 40 species, and you think you are average. I did not mean to scare anyone, Kira said quietly. And for the first time, she looked genuinely upset. I just wanted to join the academy because it seemed interesting. Earth military is fine, but it is all stuff designed for fighting other humans, you know? Same capabilities, same limitations. I thought training with other species would be a challenge, something new. Vex felt something click into place in his mind. You joined because you were bored. Because fighting other humans is not challenging enough. I mean, kind of. And you think you are average? I am. Back home there are billions of people. Millions who are way better at physical stuff than me. Professional athletes who can run faster, jump higher, react quicker. Fighters who actually dedicated their lives to combat sports and are scary good at it. I am just a college student who stayed reasonably fit and thought space would be cool. Vex pulled up his datapad and began typing his report to Commander Thal. His hands were steady now, his mind's clear. He knew what had to be done. "What are you writing?" Kira asked. "A recommendation," Vex replied. "That humanity be given their own training division. That we stop trying to fit you into protocols designed for species that evolved under normal conditions. That we accept the uncomfortable truth that Earth produces casual excellence in areas we consider peak performance." "That seems excessive." "You kicked a grenade back at me on your first day, Kira. You dodged automated weapons fire while humming a song. You defeated our best fighters and then apologized for embarrassing them. Nothing about humanity is going to fit into our existing frameworks." He finished typing and sent the report, then looked at her seriously. "The galaxy was not ready for humans, but ready or not, you are here now, and we are going to have to adapt." Kira smiled slightly. "Does this mean training gets harder?" "Harder?" Vex considered that. "For you? Probably not. For us trying to keep up with you? Absolutely." She raised her coffee cup in a mock toast. "Good. I was worried this was going to be boring." Vex did not have the heart to tell her that boring was exactly what the rest of them had been hoping for. Instead, he pulled up the Academy's training database and started searching for exercises designed for species twice human size with 3 times human strength. It was going to be a very long assignment. But watching the Galactic Council panic over one average human, that part at least, had been deeply satisfying. His report's final line read simply, "Humanity considers military training easier than their childhood games. Recommend we prepare accordingly." Commander Thal sent back a single-word response. "Approved." Somewhere in the distance, Vex heard the training alarm sound. New recruits arriving. He wondered if there were more humans in this batch. Then he decided he did not want to know. Not today, anyway. One apocalypse at a time.